Okay, our next presenter is going to talk about Kansas City Pavement Preservation Program. He's Griffin Smith from the Missouri Department of Transportation. He's a graduate of University of Missouri, Kansas City. Has been with MoDOT for 6 years. He is the Assistant Maintenance Engineer in the Kansas City District. So please welcome Griffin.
Todd originally called me and he said, well, Griffin, we had this first guest who's not going to be able to speak for us. Would you mind coming in? You guys have a great plan, but would you mind coming to talk about your preservation plan? I said, sure, Mike, I don't care if I'm second, sure, Todd, I don't care if I'm second choice. I'd be happy to. So I came up with this plan about pavement preservation, this presentation. Parts of it are preservation, parts of it are history, where we've been, where we're going, how we're going to maintain this. So some of it is kind of the inner workings of MoDOT, and some of it is pavement preservation. This is Missouri. You can see we're divided into 7 districts, 114 counties. You can see Kansas City there. This is Kansas City District. We have 9 counties. You can see the amount of miles we have there. That's lane miles. The minor routes, a lot of them consist of farm to market type routes. So a lot of these would be considered county roads in other states that we took them on years and years, decades ago, and we've been stuck with maintaining them. Here you can see where we've been, kind of showing you the punchline all in one graph, but you can see in 2004 we were in the mid-50s on our percent good. And at MoDOT, we're optimists, so we talk in percent good and percent not good. We don't talk about percent bad. So back in 2004, we had no pavement preservation plan. It was throw a rock and you can treat a route because it's in bad shape. But then, how do you fix a problem when you have terrible routes? Is you throw money at it. And so in Amendment 3 in 2004, we got an influx of money from different sources. And Kansas City estimated $47 million in resurfacing projects, which nowadays doesn't seem like it would do a whole lot. I mean, it would do a lot, but not a whole lot. But really just main lines were treated. Shoulders were ignored, ramps were ignored. Other updates that would be needed were ignored. So we really tried to get the stretch of the dollar as far as we could. So out of that, Smooth Roads Initiative was developed, and you can see the amount of roads that were treated. Interesting fact is 58% of Missourians live within 25 miles of I-70. So I think with this plan, it was in the mid-80s, say 85% of Missourians were going to have a road within 25 miles treated, which was pretty incredible. I think it was over 2,000 miles of majors and interstates that were treated. Here you can see the Kansas City area, the amount of roads that were treated, all in red. It was a really great product, and it really, as the other graph showed, it really brought us up to, in 2007, 2010, that's when it exploded and we got up to close to 85%. Now our goal for major routes is to maintain 85%. So now we are in a pavement preservation mode, and our pavement specialist, Tricia Sen, is responsible for knowing which roads to treat when, and kind of maintain what we've got. Before it was worst first, you can treat anything you want because they're all in bad shape. Now we have to strategically plan out what we're going to do. You can see we focused on the majors, so the minors, they continued to stay at the 50s. In 2009 or 2010, right in there, we really focused on the minors, and our goal was to get those up to 70%. And in Kansas City, we got up to close to 80%. So if we were still in bad shape, I wouldn't be showing you this graph, but since it looks so good, I showed it twice. So how will we maintain this? Kind of echo Mike Ross. We're going to keep good roads good. So it all comes down to knowing your roads, having a great plan. You know when they were last paved, what they look like now, and how much more life they have left in them. This is kind of outside of pavement preservation, but just to talk about how projects are developed and when projects are put into cycle of looking at them. Project identification, this is where Tricia identifies which routes are next on the list, and this may be 4 years in advance, so her crystal ball is really brightened up. She shines them up real bright, because 4 years in advance, you may have an asphalt that's only down 3 years. So you're assuming that we have a 7-year average pavement life. So you're assuming that in year 7, you're going to need to resurface again, which is not always true. It may be year 5, it may be year 10, but we have to go off something. So we go off 7 years. Then we take that to scoping estimating. That's where all our maintenance field comes together. That's where construction, that's where design, that's where all the people that need to know and come together, traffic, and they really, you have a paving job and then it just comes into a traffic and guardrail and everything that everybody wants into one job. Then you take it to design, they make up the plans, then it's constructed. And then as a maintenance guy, I have to say that preventive maintenance is done all along the way. So whether that's a pothole that pops up in the wintertime because you didn't get enough pavement repair down during when it was constructed, just maintenance done all along the way. And then this talks about our funding, tale of two flower pots. Is clever. I almost deleted it, but I thought it was clever, so I left it in. Statewide distribution, this is money that comes from gas tax and new sales tax on new vehicles. This is typically used for interstates and major routes. This is work performed by contractors, consists of mill and fills and overlays. And these are the projects that need to be planned 3 and 4 years in advance due to the scoping, estimating, design, and all that process. Then we have an operating budget where this really came into play when we started focusing on the minor routes. We would spend half of our maintenance budget on buying materials for minor routes. So our maintenance crews, they perform Coldmix overlays, they perform chip seals, things of that nature, fly coats. This plan development doesn't have to take in advance as much. It's 1 to 2 years in advance, which is a lot easier to really put the right money on the right road because you can see where it's going to be in a year or two. As I mentioned, we have an average 7-year pavement life. Scoping needs to begin 4 years in advance for interstates, 3 years for majors, and 1 to 2 years for other routes. This is one of the tools, rather than having college students go out on the street and measure everything, we have a van that drives all of our routes and it tells you whether our roads are good or not good. And I have next slide about that. But this is a great visual representation of what our roads look like. You can see the blue there is good for our interstates and majors, and then yellow is not good. So this is a great tool to ship out to the maintenance field, to external customers that you can see. These are where our good roads are, and it's just a visual, eye-popping map. This is our ARAN van. It measures the IRI, International Roughness Index, visual pavement condition. It takes photos every 52 feet. There's actually somebody has a job, and they look at every picture, and they give it a visual pavement condition of 1 to 10. Interesting. Average rut. This is sometimes accurate, sometimes not. It's a useful piece of information. Date collected. We usually run the routes in the late fall to try and catch all the resurfacing projects for the next year for when we make a map and we get our percent good and percent not good. But there are some routes that are paved in November that are ran in October, and so you miss that. Measures the grade, lat and long. But the two most important are IRI and visual pavement condition. These are how we would determine good, not good. We have a set of criteria based on miles per hour to determine if a road is good or not good, and that's how we come up with our tracker map. Some other factors that go into route prioritization is maintenance field input. We need to know where they're spending a lot of their time and money, because if a crew has to go out multiple times to a job, that's money, and that's also them being out in traffic, which is unsafe. And if that's a high priority for them, then it should be a high priority for us. The IRI, as I mentioned, visual pavement condition, pavement life remaining. So if we have 7 years average pavement life and it's 5 years old, it should already be in the process of being scoped and estimated. And then our percent good and our average daily traffic. So obviously we want to affect the most people that we can, so the higher volume routes take priority over Route AA in Johnson County, Missouri, not Kansas. How we got there, talk about a few of our pavement treatments. These are some of the methods of how we maintain what we've got depending on what the current conditions of the road are. Overlay or mill and fill with SuperPave. This is really majors in and interstates. We don't put this down on minor routes. You can see there $78,000 per lane mile is how much it costs. That's before you add in guardrail, pavement repair, all the wants of everybody. And we have UBAWS. We threw a wearing surface in there. This is about 3/4 inch thick. I think Mike already explained it pretty well, but it just drains water away from the pavement, and it's just a super duty chip seal for interstates and major routes. We've had great success with UBAWS. Back in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, we started to use it, and it was kind of a new thing, and it was all virgin aggregate, all virgin oil, super duper. Well, you pay super duper price for it, so the pendulum swings down to the middle, and we try and cheapen the price. Well, we finally reached the other end, and we've had a few UBAWSs that haven't been so successful. So pendulum's kind of swinging back. So just like with any new treatment, you start out top notch, and then you got to find out where the bottom is before you can find the middle. The microsurfacing, we used to do a lot more of this in Kansas City, but this is a bridge that we just recently done it on to improve the friction. We had a few wet weather incidents, so this is really a great friction increasing project. But we don't do a lot of it in the city because it has to be done during the day, and it's got to break quickly. And often we have a lot of traffic in the day, and we can't do it at night, so it's not really an option in a lot of places. Crack sealing, this is a project that maintenance folks do. Pretty self-explanatory. Coldmix overlays, this is getting into some of the minor routes that we do, minor route pavement treatments. This is a great treatment for routes less than maybe 600, 700 ADT. We'll go in, and our crews can lay it for about $34,000 per mile, and then we go through and we put a light chip seal on it. And then a couple of years after that, we come back and do a full chip seal. Just give that material enough time to cure and get set up. And then a chip seal, our crews perform this about $12,000 per mile. That's lane mile. And we've found that we've have comparable results for less price than what the contractors can do it. So this is something our maintenance field kind of takes pride in. So we come up with a chip seal plan every year and we'll let them go at it. These are a few pictures. We use haydite on the left and limestone on the right. Haydite's used for higher volume routes just because we have less windshield claims, and people don't think you're turning their road to gravel if you don't use limestone. Fog seal, it's just spraying some oil down to reduce the oxidation on the pavement. We also have a few innovations. 2 years ago, we tried a Kraton Polymer. Polymer modified tack's pretty much a necessity for most overlays and mill and fills. We use RAS and RAP in a lot of our mixes. And then we also had a surface sealing product called Onyx that we tried, and we've had success. These are a couple pictures from our ARAN van. I don't know if you can see them, but on the left is the rutted pictures, and then on the right is the 2 years after the Kraton was put down. We had troubles at intersections with rutting. Found out that the underlying material was semi-stable, and rather than going down 5-6 inches down to concrete or doing a white topping, we tried this Kraton Polymer, and we've had good success with it. It's lasted a couple of years now. and I don't want to speak incorrectly. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but Kraton Polymer is a polymer that you can add to your mix that you can add a lot more of, and it doesn't make your mix really gum up. So you can add it to a PG 6422, and it really increases it to 7622 or above without getting that real gummy. So it gives it the strength and still workable. This is a picture of the surface sealing, the Onyx product. It's applied just like a fly coat, but it's got real small aggregate in it. It comes out of a distributor, and a modified distributor, I should say. And they can motor down the road at 10, 15 miles an hour, and they're done before you look up. And that's all I've got. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What's a fly coat?
A fly coat is just putting it's fog seal, putting a light coat of oil down, usually about 0.05 gallons per square yard or so. And you don't blot it with anything. You just wait for it to break. The question was, is 7 years the average pavement life, or it's the average pavement life. So from the time we put it down, if we put it down in 2015 and 2022, it should need another treatment.
Okay, so it's just between treatments.
Yeah.
The other question.
All right. Thank you.